Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so that you do not miss any video lesson from RAU'S.
Hello and welcome to Daily Prelims Practice, where we take up the questions from the Hindu and the Indian Express and curate them as per the demand of Civil Services Prelims. The topics for the today's discussion have been listed on your screen. Let us now begin our discussion with an important announcement.
Hello students, there is an announcement for you regarding the optional classes which we at RAU'S IAS are starting at Bengaluru and New Delhi Center. The optional paper of Public Administration will be taken up by Anubhav Sharma sir at the Bengaluru campus on 26 September from 3:30 pm. For the history optional subject, orientation class at the Bengaluru campus will be taken up by Parampreet Singh sir on 27th of September from 3:30 pm. And the orientation for geography as an optional subject will be taken up by Indrajit Bariyar sir on 27 September from 6 pm. So these three subjects will be taken up at Bengaluru Center. Shobik Sen sir will take up the optional classes for psychology optional at New Delhi on 28th of September from 3:30 pm. And this will be followed up by the orientation class of sociology by Dr. Surendra Singh sir on 28th of September from 6 pm onwards. On 29 September, the orientation class will be taken up for PSIR optional by Rahul Puri sir from 3:30 pm. Whereas on the same day, that is on 29 September from 6 pm onwards, orientation classes for the history optional will be taken up by Kritika ma'am and Mathimaran Raju sir. Next, on 30th of September, the orientation class for public administration will be taken up by Dr. V.K. Kaushik sir from 3:30 pm, which will be followed up by the orientation class for geography optional at New Delhi campus from 6 pm on 30th of September by Vineet Thaplu sir. Now these orientation classes will be conducted both online and also in the offline mode. And these classes you can interact with your teachers about the optional subjects, the nature of questions asked, and also the syllabus provided by UPSC.
Now, moving on to the first article of the Hindu, it talks about the current account deficit that has widened to 2.8% of GDP in quarter 1. Now, UPSC in the previous years has also asked questions related to balance of payment, what it constitutes, and questions related to various deficits like twin deficit, current account deficit, etc. So this region becomes important for us. The practice question says that with reference to balance of payment, consider the following statements. The first statement here is the balance of payment has consistently remained positive for India in last 5 years. Now this statement is wrong as the balance of payment was negative for India in the year 2018-19. The second statement says that India's merchandise trade balance has been in deficit since 1991 reforms. Now this statement is correct. Moving on to the third statement, it says India has never witnessed current account surplus since 1991 reforms. This statement is again wrong because India witnessed a current account surplus situation for the first time in the last 17 years in the year 2020-21. The question further asks which of the statements given above is or are correct. So the correct statement is only option 2. And the correct code for the answer will be option B, that is 2 only. Moving on to the next article from the Hindu, it talks about UNESCO list of 50 iconic Indian textiles. Now UPSC previously under the art and culture section has also asked questions related to various dance, drama, crafts, etc. And such a question was also seen in the year 2018. Now the practice question says consider the following players, textile and the places associated with them. The first option here given is Lambadi of Karnataka. Now this statement is correct. Patola from Gujarat, this pair is also correct. Garad Korial from West Bengal, this pair is also correct. And the last pair is Himru from Rajasthan, which is wrong as Himru is from Hyderabad. Some important textiles under the new list of 50 exclusive and iconic heritage textile crafts are Toda embroidery from Tamil Nadu, Himru from Hyderabad, Bandha tie and dye from Sambalpur in Odisha, Khes from Panipat, Tigma from Ladakh, Kunbi weaves from Goa, Patola from Gujarat, and Garad Koiral from West Bengal. The question is further asked which of the following given pair above are correctly matched. So as 3 pairs are correct, the correct code for the answer is option C. Now moving to the next article, it talks about India and China and basically the issue of line of actual control. Now UPSC in the previous years has also asked questions related to boundary and various boundary commission, and thus this area becomes important from the perspective of prelims. The practice question says, consider the following statements regarding boundary between India and China. The first statement is, India consider Johnson line as the legitimate line between India and China, while China on the other hand considers McDonald line as legitimate in the western sector. Now this statement is correct, as India considered Johnson line that was proposed by the British in 1865 as the legitimate line because it puts Askai Chin, the part of Ladakh, under India's control. On the other hand, China considers McDonald line, which was proposed in 1893 as the legitimate line in the western sector because it puts Askai Chin under the Chinese control. The second statement says that the current LAC, that is line of actual control, between India and China aligns with the claims of China in the western sector of the Indo-China border. We need to know that Indo-China border has three components, that is the western sector, middle sector and the eastern sector. The eastern sector comprises of Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh, and the western sector comprises of the areas of Ladakh. Now statement 2 is also correct because the current line of actual control between India and China aligns with the claims of China as it currently puts Askai Chin under the control of China. The third statement says the eastern sector, that is the McMahon line, is well accepted by both the countries. Now this statement is again wrong because as we have discussed, the eastern sector comprising of Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh is contested between the two countries, and China doesn't recognize the importance of McMahon line as it says this boundary agreement was formalized between the Tibetan state and that of India, which China was not a party to. Thus, there is a dispute between the two countries in the eastern sector too, where China claims the entire Arunachal Pradesh and the parts of Sikkim as its territories. The question further says, choose the correct code. And the correct code for the question will be option B, that is only statement 1 and 2 are correct. Moving on to the next article that has featured in Indian Express, it talks about the SC Collegium that has recommended transfer of Odisha Chief Justice to Madras High Court. Now UPSC under the Polity section has asked questions related to Indian judiciary previously, and thus the topic of judiciary becomes important for us from the perspective of prelims. The practice question says, consider the following statements regarding the transfer of High Court judge. The first statement is, the President can transfer a judge from one High Court to another after consulting the Chief Justice of India. Now this statement is correct. The second statement says that the third judge's cases mandated consultation process as mandatory on Chief Justice of India. Now this statement is again correct, as under the third judge's cases, Supreme Court opined that the consultation process should be adopted by Chief Justice of India, which requires consultation of plurality of judges. The sole opinion of the Chief Justice of India does not constitute the consultation process. Under the same case, Supreme Court also opined that recommendation made by Chief Justice of India without complying with the norms and requirements of consultation process are not binding on the government. Moving on to the third statement, it says the Collegium for consideration of transfer consists of 4 senior most judges of Supreme Court only. Now this statement is wrong, as under the third judge's cases, the Supreme Court has opined that in case of transfer of High Court judges, the Chief Justice of India should consult, in addition to the Collegium of 4 senior most judges of Supreme Court, the Chief Justice of the 2 High Courts, that is one from which the judge is being transferred and the other receiving him, should also be a party for the consultation process or the Collegium. Thus, third statement is wrong. So the correct code for the answer will be statement 1 and 2 only, which is option A. Moving on to the next article that has featured in the Indian Express and talks about Global Innovation Index, in which India has climbed 6 notches and has ranked on the 40th position. Now UPSC in the previous years has also asked questions related to various indexes and such a question was also seen in the year 2019 and 2018. So this region becomes important for us. The practice question says which of the following statements regarding the Global Innovation Index are correct. The first statement is the Global Innovation Index is released by the World Economic Forum. Now this statement is wrong, as Global Innovation Index is released by WIPO, which is a specialized agency of the United Nations, in collaboration with INSEAD and the Cornell University. The second statement says that India has consistently improved its position over the last few years. Now this statement is correct, as India has seen an upward trajectory in the last few years and has improved its rank from 81 in 2015 to 40 in 2022, a jump of almost 40 rank. The third statement says Niti Aayog has also come out with its own India Innovation Index. Now this statement is also correct, as Niti Aayog has come out with India Innovation Index on the similar lines of Global Innovation Index. Further, as a knowledge point, a thing to understand here is India Innovation Index is more holistic when compared with the Global Innovation Index, as it includes parameters like demographic dividend, patents per million, number of PhD scholars, etc. under its ambit. The question further says select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer to the question will be option B, that is only 2 and 3 are correct. Now moving to the next article from the Indian Express, it talks about Supreme Court's abortion ruling that has been made recently. Now UPSC in the previous years has also asked about the various statutory changes made regarding the issues of women. And such a question was also seen in the year 2019, where changes made under Maternity Benefit Act was asked. Now, the practice question says which of the following statement is or are correct regarding Medical Termination of Pregnancy Amendment Act 2021. The first statement says it has increased the time period for abortion from 12 weeks to 20 weeks with the advice of one registered doctor. Now, this statement is correct. The earlier time limit was one registered doctor if the pregnancy was less than 12 weeks and two registered doctors if the pregnancy was between 12 to 20 weeks. Now this has been raised from 12 to 20 weeks, meaning thereby only one registered doctor can advise for termination of pregnancy up to 20 weeks. The second statement says it allowed abortion beyond 24 weeks in case of fetal abnormalities. Now this statement is also correct, as the proposed changes has allowed abortion beyond 20 weeks for the rape survivor and beyond 24 weeks in case of substantial fetal abnormalities in a bid to prevent illegal abortions. The third statement says it mandated setting up of medical boards at the state level. Now this statement is correct, and the fourth statement says the failure of contraceptive method as a ground for termination of pregnancy under the act is applicable only to married women. Now this statement is wrong, as the Supreme Court guideline has also extended it for the single woman. So the correct code for the question will be option C, that is statement 1, 2 and 3 are correct only. Now moving to the last question of the day, it talks about the appointment of Chief of Defence Staff. Now we can very well expect UPSC to ask a questions related to Chief of Defence Staff in the coming prelims examination, and thus we need to focus on the changes that have been made. The practice question says that with reference to the post of Chief of Defence Staff, consider the following statement. The first statement is the CDS is appointed as the Secretary of Department of Military Affairs. Now this statement is correct, as the CDS is appointed as the Secretary of Department of Military Affairs, which at present functions under an additional secretary rank, Lieutenant General. The second statement says that serving or retired Lieutenant General, Air Marshal and Vice Admiral under 62 years are eligible for the CDS post. Now this statement is also correct. As to expand the arc of choices before the government, a notification was released which altered the rules of selection, and the amended rules allowed serving or retired Lieutenant General rank officers to be eligible for the post, but with the condition that the age at the time of appointment is under 62 years. Further, the notification said that the government can extend the service of Chief of Defence Staff maximum till 65 years of the age. Moving on to the third statement, it says K. Subramaniam Committee appointed after the Kargil conflict of 1999 recommended the appointment of CDS for the first time. Now this statement is also correct because the proposal for CDS has been there for 2 decades. It was first made by K. Subramaniam Committee, which was appointed after the Kargil conflict of 1999 to recommend higher military reform. However, during the 20 years period, there was a lack of consensus and apprehensions among the services, and thus the move was never taken forward. The question further says which of the statement given above is or are correct, and as we have seen that all the statements are correct, so the correct code will be option D.
So we have discussed the question for the day. Stay tuned for more such updates.